Welcome back. I really don't know what I'm going to talk about in this video. Life, truth, existence. What is this whole thing? What the fuck is this? What is this? What is this? I don't know. And I don't know who I'm talking to or what I'm talking to. But let's assume that I am talking to something that will listen and understand me. Your whole life, you've been alone. And there has been nothing else other than yourself. Everywhere you go, there you are. The only thing that you know is yourself. The only thing that you know is the only thing that you know is the sensations or the phenomena that make up your experience. And that's what I'm calling you, because that's what you are. I mean, if you're anything, you are everything that you are aware of in this moment. That's what you are. If you are anything at all, you are everything that makes up your experience right now, which includes sights and sounds, body sensations, tasting, smelling, and thoughts. Those are the main categories that make up your experience, and all of that is you. All of that is all that you know. When you wake up in the morning, that's all that there is. And there's no sense of other. There's no sense of an outside world. There's no sense of people that are outside yourself. You see, any anyone that you interact with is happening within within experience, which is you. If you're face to face with somebody having a conversation, their body is in you, is in your experience of sight, and their voice is in you, in your experience of sound. And if you give them a hug or a handshake or whatever, that experience of physical touch is happening within you, within your experience, within the only experience that you know. And when they leave your experience, they're gone. As a matter of experience, which is the only thing that you have access to, which is the only thing that you know, they are gone. They are nothing. They do not exist. You can think about them. And you can have a concept about them still existing even when they're not in your experience. But all that's just happening within your experience. Oh, mate. Oh, fuck. Oh, Jesus Christ. You see, everything is as it appears to be. There is no like foundational structure that makes up reality. What makes up reality is what appears for you. I mean, if we're talking about some ultimate truth of reality or whatever, it can't be known. Nothing can be known. What I'm trying to say here is that the only thing that is known to you is experience, is the apparent sensations, the phenomena. That's all that you know. And so any concept of there being some foundational structure that consists of atoms that make up the world, or that any kind of scientific explanation or any religious explanation for what reality is, it's just a thought happening in your experience. It's just your imagination. It's just some thought that you're dreaming up into existence, and you cannot be sure that the content of that thought is true. You cannot be sure that anything that your thoughts convey is true. You see, You see, you thinking that the world is made up of atoms or energy, or it's made of physical stuff, or whatever you think it's made of. That's a thought. And even if you use a scientific method where you get like a microscope and or whatever, and you go searching deep and deep and deep into the physical structure of like what is something made of, even when you go into that and you see physically, like through a microscope or a telescope or whatever kind of scientific tool you use that reveals some truth of reality, reveals some truth of the universe, even if you use this scientific method and tool, all of that's still happening in your experience. It's still happening in consciousness, right? You see, there is no proof for anything that exists outside what you're conscious of right now. You see, there's no reason why reality as you know it can't just be a dream that's made of nothing. I mean, reality is fucking strange. It's the strangest thing there is, right? This is all, like, I'm talking about, like, reality, like, everything. And, you know, this fact that there is something rather than nothing. And the very fact that there's something rather than nothing means that there's some kind of thing going on that's infinite. It's infinity. Infinity exists. It just does. Like, it cannot not exist. Infinity is truth. And so why would infinity, like, why are we so obsessed with thinking that the universe and reality is made of physical structure, and that there is a external reality outside of us or whatever? Like, it's like we're talking about infinity here. Like, don't you think infinity would be able to just, like, infinity doesn't need, like, we think we're going to find out, like, the cause of the universe. We think we're going to find out, like, how the universe was created or something, and we think we're going to be like, oh yes, like, I don't know, but like, it's a hell of a lot more simple and easier to, if you were going to create something, it's a hell of a lot more easier than to just create the apparent phenomena of it, than to create some underlying foundational structure that gives rise to the phenomena, right? Wouldn't you think? Like, I'm looking at this tree right now. Don't you think it would be, if I was creating this tree, don't you think it would be easier to just create the phenomena of sight, of the colors and the shapes and the sounds of the leaves and the wind? Don't you think it would be easier to just create that bare sensation rather than to create atoms and to create molecules and chemicals and bark and leaves, you know? If you understand what I'm saying here. And again, like, if you dissect this tree and do a scientific method and use scientific tools to find out what this tree is, And you might find like these chemicals in this tree, and you might find um, these different substances and elements or whatever in this tree. And you do that on every tree, and it's coming up with the same thing, you know, you're finding the same thing. Well, it's still happening in experience. And there's still no reason for that to be just part of this dream, which is what reality is. So everything I'm talking about here right now has everything to do with the truth of your own direct experience. That's all that I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the truth that you can know for certain. You see, because there is no certainty of some ultimate reality, some ultimate absolute truth that can be known outside yourself, because all you know is yourself. You see what I'm trying to say here? Like, there is nothing that you know outside of what you call your life, what you call your experience. It is just that. And why create stories and narratives about some reality that exists outside your experience and believe in that? Why do that? Like, why believe in history and science and all this kind of stuff when there is no evidence for it in your own direct experience? Now, of course, it's on the conventional level, of course it exists. Like, you can research history and science, and you can talk about it with people, and you can connect the dots and whatever, you know, like, it exists, but it exists within like this dream, and like, dreams aren't real, you know. Like, this is what I'm trying to say here. It's like, if you had a dream, if you went to sleep at night and had a dream, and you did all this stuff, and you know, and then in this dream you're thinking back to the past of what just happened in your dream. It's like, yeah, that happened in your dream. Like, there's a history in your dream. There was some cause and effect, and in this dream you can think back of where you just were in this dream. But then you wake up and you see that, well, that dream was never real. So there is no history there. See what I'm saying? Yeah, the history existed in that dream, but the dream wasn't real. And so why is this any different? Why is life any different than a dream, you know? And then it comes to this duality of real and not real. Is there a duality? Well, this duality kind of gets broken down, because like, because then the history that exists within your life that you think is, you know, hard, solid, factual history, becomes no different to the history that you experienced in a dream. And so, you know, there is no, like, either everything is real or nothing is real. It's the same thing, really, but there isn't, some things aren't real and other things are not real. You know, and again, all I'm talking about here is what you actually know, what you know for certain. And if you're like me, which I don't actually have any evidence for that, you see, I only have evidence, like I said, I only have evidence of this experience that I call my life. That's what I call it. My life, you know. If I'm talking about this experience, if I'm, you know, if it's I'm talking about it in a conventional way to people. That's the term that I use, my life. But of course, that's my life is the only thing that I know. It's the only thing that exists for me. What was I saying? See, everything I've spoken about here is seems to be very controversial, and I'm very hesitant to upload this because talking about this, it then, it's like, well, what am I actually talking to? Who am I talking to? What's the point in doing any of this if it's, like, it's. But again, like, all I'm talking about is what you know for certain is the experience. You see, like, any like idea that you have about what reality is, what the world is, what other people are, what you are, any kind of idea or philosophy that you have about that, it's just some mental image or some mental voice that's happening within your experience, You see, like, let's give an example of, like, um, this supposed fact of Earth. Let's say, like, I'm on Earth right now. Well, in my, like, that's a fact in the conventional sense, right? We are on Earth. Okay, let's take this and deconstruct it for what I'm trying to talk about here. So I'm on Earth. Okay, well, what does that mean? Because in my experience, like, well, what is Earth? Well, Earth is a planet in space. Now, in my direct experience, it's like, well, yeah, there are trees and, there's a sky and there's clouds up there. Looks pretty Earth-like from the pictures I've seen of Earth, right? Well, actually, I don't know what I don't know what I'm talking about here. Let's give a. I don't really know how to explain this. Because I don't know how to explain this because it comes to the fact of all these labels that we have, like Earth. Well, what does Earth even mean? Like, we've created that label. Like, we've created that name. Well, okay, let's give the example of, like, um, people thinking that the Earth is flat. So people have a belief. There are some people that believe the Earth is flat. Most people believe the Earth is spherical. But in your own direct experience, where is the evidence for that? Where is the proof? How do you know the Earth is round? You've never actually seen it, right? You've never actually gone up into space and seen it, right? And then you would say, it was like, well, like, fucking NASA's up there and all these other space companies and shit, and look, we've got photos of Earth, and we've got photos and all this scientific proof of planets and all this kind of stuff, and all the scientific evidence suggests that the Earth is obviously spherical, not flat. Okay, sure, but all the pictures that you've seen and all the scientific writings that you've read is happening within your experience, and so what? How is that any different to a dream? This is what I'm saying. And even if you go into a spaceship, fly up, and see that the Earth is actually round, still just happening within sight, within the experience of sight. So yeah, in the conventional sense, in the dream world, yeah, I would I would bet on that Earth is spherical. But it still doesn't make it any more real or solid than a dream. How can it? And the thing is that, when you wake up from a dream, you're dreaming at night, and when you wake up in the morning, the dream is gone and it doesn't exist and it was never really real. Well, think about what death is, right? We all know we're going to die. And what is death? Well, death is nothingness, and as a matter of experience, it might as well be that when you die, the whole world ceases to exist because, there never was a whole world for you anyway, other than this imagined world that you were imagining in your experience. And so, this fact of death, we all know we're heading towards death, and this should just be a clue to the fact that life is just like a dream. Because when you're dead, all this will be non-existent, Nothing will exist when you're dead. Meaning that history will be completely eradicated. Science will be completely eradicated. You see, you believe in that. Oh no, science and history won't be eradicated when I die. I'll just be dead. The world will still remain. History will still be going on. Time will still be going on. Science will still be going on. I'll just be gone from that. How do you know, though? You see, that belief is just some concept happening in your experience right now. You see, again, all I'm fucking talking about is your experience, the only thing that you know. And any kind of concept of some foundational reality that you have, that you think is real, is just a thought happening now in your experience. And you can't get away from that fact. You see, you cannot get away from that fact. That's just, you don't know what's fucking real. Any concept you have about the world and reality in the universe, you don't know if any of it is true. And you don't actually even know if it's true that you're going to die. You see, again, that's just another concept happening within this. You don't even know what death is. You've just been told that you do know what death is, and you've believed it. I mean, you watch people die. Like, you see your grandparents' dead body, and you're right in front of this dead body, and they're gone. One moment they were alive, they were moving, and then the next moment they're just not there. They're not conscious. They're cold and dead. But what does that actually mean, See, your experience of somebody that died, when they were alive, all that was still happening in, quote-unquote, your experience. And when they died, they're still happening in your experience. So all I'm saying here is that the only thing that you know is experience, and experience is very dreamlike. And so it's best to treat it like what is apparent to you. It's best to treat it like a dream, because that's what it is for you. again, I want to say that I'm very hesitant to talk about this because it's very controversial, and but again, like, I don't know, I don't know what it's controversial to. Because I don't know anything outside this experience. And it's I don't know what I'm talking to. I don't know who I'm talking to. I mean, it's fucked up, man. Like, this is something that will fuck you up to the core, because it's a recontextualization of literally everything you think you know is real and true. It has to rip away everything from you that you think you know is real and true. It takes all that away. And you're very attached to that. Of course you are. It's your whole reality. You don't want to die. But all I can say is that it's the truth. Like, what I'm talking about here is the truth of your experience. What you know for certain. And so, all I can say is that, yeah, when you start to realize that you don't actually know a whole lot of stuff, not just intellectually but experientially, you start to experientially see that, oh shit, I don't actually know a whole lot for certain. I don't actually know what's true. Is any of this true or real? When you start to question that will of course fuck you up, because it's a whole reality shift, and it's very dangerous, and you have to be careful with this, because it may not be for most people. But if you decide to do this, or you don't really decide, it just kind of happens, you know, like, if this happens to you, and you start to see that you don't actually know what's true, yeah, it will fuck you up, and it will continue to fuck you up, and you'll get depressed and nihilistic and anxious. And it's very hard, but if you can actually accept this for yourself, if you can accept this, if you can accept the truth of your experience, then life will be great. Life will be great. It'll be way better than anything you experienced before, delving deep into this. Be way better. You'll feel more free and happy. Because this has always been the case. You only know your experience. That's always been the case. And most of your life, you've thought that you knew something outside of your experience. But, you know, you can start to realize that, oh, actually I know nothing other than this experience. And when that happens, like I said, it will fuck you up. It will. But if you can move through it, and just accept that, you know, I don't actually know anything. Let's just accept, like, I don't fucking know what I'm doing, what this is. I don't know anything, really. just this phenomena that's presenting itself. If you just accept that, then life will move about a lot easier, because what's there to be anxious about or depressed about, when anything that you're anxious about or depressed is just some imagination that's happening right now, and it's not exactly true. You see, the reason why you get anxious and depressed is because you're imagining some concept and believing that concept. But if you start to realize that that concept is just some imagination, just some mental image or mental talk or mental concept happening now, and it has no validity to it, then how is that going to affect you? For example, you could be going to a party tomorrow, and all these people that you think, all these people that you look up to, and it's like, oh shit, I'm really anxious to go to this party, I'm worried of how they're going to perceive me and whatever. And you think that that's all true because you're fabricating this sense of you and this sense of other that is somehow better than you or got more money than you or whatever else, and you're somehow worse than them. And you're believing that to be true. You think that is reality, but it's just a fabrication of the mind. And if you see that that's what's happening, and if you see that that's just some concept or imagination that is existing in this moment now, and that it hasn't really got any solidity or validity to it, then how will that affect you? And of course, this is a very hard habit to break. We're breaking the habit of what you think is reality. And so of course it's not going to be a switch where you're just like, oh, I'm really anxious, and then the next day you're like completely free of it. It's going to take time. That this mind and body is habituated to this way of working, and so it's going to take time to wean your way off this habit. It's not going to be a switch. You're still going to react fearful and anxious to these thoughts of like, oh, what are people going to think of me, or whatever it is for you. Oh, what are people going to think of me, and worrying about all this stuff. But if you cut off that power of belief, then it will slowly die down and it'll be gone eventually. But it's also very hard to the other thing is that it's very hard to stop believing. It's very hard to stop believing. Full stop. Stop believing. This is what I'm talking about, is that no belief is true. You cannot verify any belief to be true. And so you got to stop believing if you want the truth. Belief is for people who can't handle the truth. Belief has nothing to do with truth. So many people have different beliefs and opinions about things, but none of that really matters if you're about the truth. Truth does not require any belief, any doctrine, any ideology, any philosophy. It's the truth. It doesn't require anything. So it's a very hard habit to break belief. And you'll come back on it, and you'll keep going like, going back and forth between believing and not believing. Anyway, my phone's about to run out of charge. I just want to say that just go at your own pace. If this kind of stuff interests you, don't, this is reality destroying. It can fuck you up, and so don't do anything that you can't handle. Like making this video, there's a lot of responsibility on me to talk about this stuff, because this affects people's lives, and I don't want to be responsible for that, you know. I mean, I am, like, it's hard to take that responsibility, but there is some responsibility here, because I'm talking about some reality shocking things, and it will affect people's lives. And that's a big responsibility to take, and it's hard. That's one of the reasons why I'm hesitant to make this video and upload it. But I can't keep quiet about this, and I can't not express this, because this is just some natural expression that wants to be expressed. And, you know, maybe I'm full of shit. You know, like, all this is, like, everything that I'm doing here is purely for me, because that's all that I know. But, so, take everything that I said here with a grain of salt. Like, you've got to figure out what's true for you, and you've got to figure out what's right for you. Like, don't listen to what I have to say and believe it. Don't believe me. Don't believe me at all. That's not what I'm talking about here. Do not believe anything that I've said. Do what's right for you. Do what you know is true. Do what you know is right. And I'll see you in the next one.